Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everything else, everyone. I'm Jim, the IT guy. Welcome to another video. This is my opinion on what is currently jumping around all over the place with the Unifi situation, and the fact I think there's just far too many drama llamas jumping around on this. As I'm sure many of you people are aware by now, the jump to basic version 2 on the CloudKey Gen 2s uh, means you now have to set up with a Unifi single sign-on account. And the latest update has also taken away the ability to create new sites directly in the web controller, so on the online and on the web controller. However, it still exists within the Android app. You can still add new sites within the Android app for the controller. I've tested this, it works, I've done it. So all this drama about, oh, you can't do it anymore. Yes, you can, but at the moment, you can't do it from the web interface. Not the end of the world at the moment, as I say. As such, I believe that this has been simply removed, pending replacement, basically, into the new interface. So into as those people of all of us who are using cloud keys at the moment are aware, the interface is a half and half between the classic and the new. This, I believe, is waiting to go into the new interface. Nothing more than that. So that's where I think we are with that. Now, this is causing a lot of people to jump up and down. Oh, well, this is something that people use. Well, this is, yeah, something certain people use, but things like, I say, the cloud keys, these things, they were never designed for big multi-site deployment. That was never the point of them. That's what the software controller was for. Deploying multi-sites on a cloud key, whether it's a Gen 2 Plus, whether it's a Gen 2, whether it's even a Gen 1, that was never the point of them, and hence why they have limits. That is it. Even though the Gen 1 cloud keys get so much higher, I've got loads of these. They've been on sites for years, and I don't get hardly any issues with them. So the people that are jumping up and down, yes, you do get problems from time to time with them. It's part of the course of it, but you fix them. We're IT guys. We fix stuff. We don't sit there and whinge. It's not what we do. The Gen 2 Plus, Gen 2 and the Gen 2 Plus was a good upgrade. The battery, yes, there's still some issues with the product, but the fact that it's got a battery in it now to shut it down when you lose power, great. But your kit should have UPSs on it. Can't do much about that, unfortunately, if people are installing kit in businesses without the proper systems. But they were only ever made for small sites. The ability to add sites to them was a nice feature, and it will be back. But that's not what they were designed for. That's why there are limits. That's why this has a theoretical limit of 10 devices. That's what Unifi quote for that one. Same with the Gen 2 and the Gen 2 Plus. This was supposed to deal with up to 50 devices. That's it. That's what the software controller was for. That it's my opinion that it's been temporarily removed while they add it back in to the new interface. I think that's where you will find the new settings come in the next update. But that's my opinion on it. The single sign-on aspect, while yes, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's here to stay. And again, if you have a system that requires something that needs to be standalone, then you use the standalone controller. That's the whole point. If you don't need the standalone controller and you want the cloud key, then yes, you have to put up with the fact that now you will be required to have a single sign-on. If you've upgraded to from a previous version to version 2, your settings should have come across and you should have access to your controller. All the ones we've done have got their local accounts still. Now, yes, going forward, if you reset that controller, you will have to use a single sign-on account to configure it. But at the end of the day, unless you're doing something very crazy or you've put these controllers in places that don't need it, the giveaway is in the name. This is a cloud key. This isn't a local key. This is a cloud key. It's a hybridized cloud controller. If you don't want the cloud aspect, then you need to use the standalone controller on a virtual machine or on a little NUC or a Pi or something like that. That's the whole aspect of it. But the name is in the product, cloud. That's what it's there for. It's not designed for you to customize it to the nth degree, which is what a lot of people seem to want to do, is take a product and then strip the guts out of it so that it works how they want it to work, not how the vast majority of people do. So that's where we are with that. As I say, the standalone controller, there's been a lot of people jumping up and down about how it's popping up with UDMP, so Unified Dream Machine Pro prompts, saying that's how you get the best out of the system. Well, in Unifi's eyes, they're technically correct. If you want the full functionality of Unifi, then the way to go about that is you either need a USG or you need a Dream Machine or Dream Machine Pro with the gateway, so that it actually gives you all the reports that it's capable of, gives you all the features that it's capable of. Yes, there is a lot of people complaining about the limited feature set of things, but again, the majority of these being actually out in use are not using half the features. They're not using all the craziness that people seem to come up with and finding reasons why the products are crap because it doesn't do this crazy thing that such and such a product does. Then it's not the right product for you. Plain and simple. If it doesn't do something that you want it to do that XYZ product does better, go and use the other product. There's nothing stopping you other than the fact that you're sat there going, but I want to use Unifi. Then stop. All you can do is ask. If you ask and put a feature request in, then if enough people need it, then maybe it will be added into the list. But if it was that needed, if it was that much of a demand behind it, then yes, it would be added. It's the way these companies work now. That's it. There's no point getting wound up over it. You're just using the wrong product. Unifi is not a fit for everybody. This is the thing. It's not a one-size-fits-all product. We use a variety of different products. We use Unifi, we use Netgear, we use Sophos, we use Meraki, we use all sorts. We use Dell, we use HP. It all depends on what fits the use case. If it doesn't fit, then it's the wrong product. There's no point trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole. It just you'll have problems. Again, all the people shouting and screaming about how this is the end of Unifi, then you're going to switch to someone else. Bye bye, goodbye. Unifi aren't fussed. They don't care. You're not needed in their ecosystem if you're going to shout and scream how you're going to switch to someone else when something doesn't work how you want it to. It's not going to work like that. That's not how the system works. They are selling products faster than ever. What about one person leaving is going to stop the next 10 people jumping in? Nothing. That's the thing. So jumping up and down on the whole changes, yes, some of them are not brilliant at the moment. Some of the fact that yes, they've got rid of something that was there previous, but generally that's unfortunately a side effect of products. That happens over time. Certain things fall by the wayside, certain features change. You can't help that, unfortunately, in certain circumstances. Now I know, again, I'm probably going to get comments from people going, oh, what about this, what about that? What about it? At the end of the day, we do what suits our customers. We make sure that actually our customers' needs are best served by the products we supply. Unifi fits into that, but trying to squeeze every last possible combination out of Unifi is impossible. Now, there are people that utterly decry the cloud keys. These are a good product. These have a place. they may not fit every situation, but they have a good solid place. And personally, I like the new version 2 firmware. It makes them very, very easy to manage remotely. We use these. We're pulling out Cloud Key 1s and replacing them usually with Gen 2 Pluses, because we're usually putting in a Unifi Protect system at the same time. But I've got Unifi Cloud Keys that have been on site for years and not missed a beat. They've gone through all the updates. They've had no issues, because they've got UPSs, because they've been kept up to date, because they get maintained. Simple things like that. They get checked, make sure the backups are working, etc. So that's how the system goes. Now, for all the people that are jumping up and down going, well, what are the alternatives? Where can I go? There are quite a few alternatives to Unifi, especially in the low-cost sort of wireless system. But the ones offering a local controller are so few and far between, because the demand is not there. If the demand existed, then more people would be dealing with them. But the demand is not there for the product. And again, I'm going to get people probably commenting going, yes, there is. The demand is there. No. If the demand was there, then the cloud products wouldn't exist. You just have to look at, you've got to look at Meraki, Aruba, Ruckus, Netgear. And yeah, Netgear. They are all big networking companies. And you know what? They are all looking at cloud controllers. They all have a cloud controller system. They're getting rid of their on-prem systems. They don't want them, because generally they cause too many issues because of the crazy configurations that people come up with, thinking, well, I can do it, therefore it must be supported. No. This is the problem. This is where things have actually, in the IT industry, yes, there is a very predominantly cloud-focused look. And that's where things have been going. Go to Meraki and say, I want an on-site controller. And again, they'll laugh you out the room. It's exactly that problem. Unifi are one of the few that offer the on-site controller, because it enables flexibility to sell more products. They need to sell more products because they're not making the margins on the products that the big companies are. And on the flip side of that is, because you're not paying Meraki money, as I've often put, what people seem to be wanting, they want Cisco grade kit for TP-Link money. And they can't understand why they can't have this, because they see the feature set and think, oh, it can do everything a Cisco can do. Well, not quite, but then they're demanding this level of software and this level of support, but they're not willing to pay for it. If you want Cisco grade quality, you buy Cisco, and you buy new Cisco. You buy Meraki, you buy Aruba, you buy Ruckus. You buy the big boys, because that's why you pay the money. If you want to buy Unifi kit and get Cisco level of support, it's not going to happen. Simple fact, unfortunately. Now, I say that there are free, as it were, systems that are alternatives to Unifi. The one that is being bandied around all over the place is the TP-Link system. And I can start by saying that Armada is nowhere near on par with Unifi, and it's basically a direct rip-off. I've used it. It's a direct rip-off of the Unifi system back in the version 3 days. It's an old system that they've basically, I don't know whether they've purchased it from Ubiquiti, or they found it open source and they've pulled it in, and then they've basically, you can imagine it, it's like Unifi, but they've crossed Unifi out and put Armada. That's it. It is so similar in so many ways, just like their Pharos APs. That's a TP-Link Pharos AP, and it's a direct copy, if not a clone or a rip of the firmware of the AirOS system. It's a carbon copy, even down to the APs. The APs look so similar. Just look at a TP-Link mesh looking AP. It's almost identical. It could literally have been someone's photocopied it off of the Unifi system. I mean, I when it first launched, I was looking at the Armada system, and I thought TP-Link were licensing it, I was having a look at the controller. We've got a customer with it on site. It's the budget system. That's where it is. It's the system that you put in when the customer balks at the price of Unifi. That's how bad the system is. When you load the standalone, it has a standalone controller, or they have a cloud key equivalent, but that's it. It's identical. It runs on Java exactly the same way that the software Unifi one does on Windows. I would not be surprised if you went digging. You will find references to Unifi in that system somewhere, because it's so similar in how it operates. They're slowly tweaking it to make it more TP-Link like, but I saw it when it first launched. I've been using it. It's not brilliant. It's got some features. It's got in just about enough to class it as business. That's it. So, I mean, that's one option you've got. The next option you've got is MikroTik. And again, I mean, MikroTik, they make products for everything. I mean, it literally, if someone has come up with a crazy idea for where they need a networking product, I mean, they literally, I mean, there's a MikroTik, that's a Groove A52 access point. I mean, yeah, it looks like a marshmallow. That's an outdoor, not dual band, because although it's dual band, it's one or the other. But that's a MikroTik. I say we use them where we need to. They are, again, they are solid devices. They are infinitely customizable, but you do have to make sure you understand everything before you get to setting them up. That's one of the limiting factors about them, is they're so customizable that you couldn't put them into certain places, because certain places where they've got certain on-site IT wouldn't be able to support them. Generally, they're that complicated in certain aspects. Again, once you understand how they work, they're fine, but they're not plug and play. And again, to central control them, on-premise control them, you can use Capsman, but it's far from a plug and play and a click and run install. This is MikroTik's biggest issue at the moment. If they come up with a solution that is a plug and play system, job done. But until such time, not going to happen. Aruba is the next one with the instant on solutions. Now, this is Aruba trying to grab some of the market back that they lost, and they lost it to people like Unifi and Ubiquiti stuff, because they priced themselves out of the market of the small businesses. The biggest difference is obviously with this is you buy the access point. The access point is the controller. To a certain degree, there is also a cloud controller side to it as well, but a lot of it is designed to be set up on a phone, on an app, which is the way it's going, which is the way the future is heading. And again, a lot of people are jumping up and down on this, and unfortunately, guys, you're in the minority. Just because you're in IT doesn't mean you are the majority. You are in the minority. These are being sold to the small businesses where they don't have an IT person. The IT person is the secretary or the boss or someone else who just wants something that they can plug in and it works. That's it. They don't want you. They don't want you to come in and sell them the most fantastic system in the world. What they want is something that they can go onto eBuyer, go onto Amazon and buy. That's it. That is where they are. No, there's no messing around with it. That's simple fact. Unfortunately, if you don't like that fact, sorry, but that's the way it is. That is the way it's been for quite some time. A lot of businesses run like that. They don't have an IT department anymore. They don't need it because it's so easy to do stuff. Say, the value you have to bring to customers has to be value of your knowledge, of your experience, and that's where it's changing. I say, the Aruba system, again, personally, I haven't played with one yet. I'd love to, and if anyone from Aruba wants to send me one, happy to accept. I'd say it'd be a nice way to see if they fit our stack of products. But again, they are a small business entry product. then if you want to use the more advanced features of it, you can license up into the big Aruba stack. It is what it is. Ruckus is the next one. Ruckus Unleashed. Now, obviously Unleashed because the Ruckus logo is actually a dog. Obviously Unleashed. Haha, very good. Because the idea is it doesn't need a controller from them. That's the whole point. I've used these. Again, brilliant solid product. Ruckus product I rate highly. They are solid bits of kit. They do last absolute ever. I've got some somewhere around here. But their target, again, is the small business sector with this. Their APs are expensive, but you pay once, you get your license, and they're targeting, again, small business with the limit on the product is 25 APs, 512 clients. That's it. Any more than that, and they're saying you need to go down up and look at the zone directors or the smart zones or cloud host a controller, which again they do offer now. So that's the way they are going. And again, it's why would you want to pay licensing for an on-site controller when generally it's not needed anymore for a lot of businesses? They don't want that. They're getting rid of the infrastructure. Now, yes, there are businesses that do want that, but they're becoming fewer. They say it's our choice for anywhere really that that the Unifi system is not capable for. I would be looking at the Ruckus systems for them, because I know the APs are rock solid. I know the firmware on them is rock solid. That's the way it is. So there's probably many others. This is literally just me. I've jotted some stuff down, and this is me thinking what there is. I mean, I personally use a lot of Sophos kit, and Sophos have their own wireless controller built into the XG series. They had it in the SG, they've got it in the XG. It's not the most flexible, but it works, and it's an on-prem controller. It's part and parcel, and if you've got a home lab with the home license for Sophos XG, you've got a wireless controller. Job done. All they need to do is launch a range of switches, and they're done. So that's where they are. You then, again, you switch on to the paid for sort of systems, and you go into things like Netgear with their Insight system. That is probably the cheapest business paid for system of the lot. That is using their specific products for their Netgear Insight, so their cloud controlled system. But if you want an on-prem system, so if you want an on-prem controller, they do have wireless controllers that are on-prem. That's the way it is. But you are now limited because they're getting rid of them. They don't want to look after them. There's no markets for them anymore because they've either been taken away by Unifi, or they've gone up to Meraki or Aruba or Ruckus. The actual market segment for the Netgear kit is for people who, again, this is small business or certain sort of medium enterprises where Netgear does fit in quite nicely, but they're trying to fit into a network segment. But that's where you are with them. And then you go up into the big boys. So again, you're up at Meraki, which doesn't need introducing. They are, without a doubt, the market leader in cloud centrally controlled systems. But you can't have an on-prem controller for Meraki. So these are again, what are you going to do? Do you want the very best? And the very best people are saying cloud control for their entire ecosystem. It's all cloud controlled. And you don't get problems with it, but then you pay for it. You have to pay for it. That's where you have to then balance the cost. If someone sat there saying, oh, I've got a site that needs to be offline, then you can't use Meraki. You have to use an on-prem system. And to use an on-prem system, what do? Do you use Ubiquiti, or do you put in something like Ruckus, or do you put in someone else, a Cisco system that's all offline? I mean, again, you use the product that fits the requirements. You don't try and shoehorn what you think is a product to fit into somewhere that it doesn't fit. You can use Unifi, you just have to run a VM up. You don't use a cloud-based system. And again, for the people that are going to be going, but it wasn't to start with. Unfortunately, the name of the product says CloudKey. It's a hybridized cloud solution. Can't do much about it, I'm afraid. You can whinge and moan, but the majority of them are still going to say, we like it how it is. It's basically that. It's other than Meraki, you're up into Aruba. And again, cloud-hosted controllers. Can't do much about that. The only other one, again, goes back to Ruckus. With their standard system, you can pay for a zone director or a smart zone controller on-prem. Brilliant. But you have to pay to run that product. So where do you stand? Where do you want to sit there and whinge and moan and then accept that, oh well, I've got to plug that into the internet once to get it set up, which generally you can do anyway. You should be making sure your devices are up to date, so you plug it in, set it up, sign it in, create a local user, go to site, and away you go. Job done. You can still sign in to these locally once you've set a local user up. I've done it. You might not be able to get the owner or the super admin login as that user. That may come in time. Unifi Ubiquiti might change their mind on that, but I don't think they will. I think they are actually segmenting what their products do. If you want to use their products, you have to play by their rules. They are not the little sort of side company that they used to be. They are growing into a big company, and unfortunately, with big company comes the big company rules and regulations and standardizing stuff, and they want to play in the bigger markets. So that's what they have to do. They're not going to sit down and be the little small wireless people anymore. It's not them. It is the way of it. Again, if the other options you've got, you're going to be looking at sort of potentially someone like Xeris or similar. It's that sort of thing. It's whether you want to keep going with things. You just have to deal with what you are presented in front of you. It's Ubiquiti's stance was they were always a disruptive influence in the market. That's where they came in. That's what they do. It's part and parcel of the core of Ubiquiti's product range. As I said, I've been browsing around the forums. I've been watching all the threads. I've been again watching all the other YouTubers who are sat effectively ranting that Unifi have done something they don't like. I hope, again, I'm presenting a slightly different opinion here in that, no, it's not brilliant, but I can't see the problems that people are having at the moment, because a lot of the ire that is being directed at them is made up. It's all people trying to basically jump on a bandwagon that isn't there. A lot of the anger, oh, how can they do this, was quite simply, they own the product range. If you don't like it, go and find someone else. If it's that sort of thing. If you don't like the product range, find someone else who can do it. If you can't find someone else who can do it, then you'll have to stick with it. Because just because a couple of people are shouting in a forum doesn't mean that that's the majority anymore. That's the way that it is. Tom at Lawrence Systems actually presents a very good neutral take on this. From a lot more, as it were, professional standpoint. Again, this is my opinion on this. This is why it's kind of a bit of a rant. But again, that's the way of it. I'm sorry if they say this is dragging on for a bit, but the amount of people that seem to have got themselves so worked up over this issue, thinking that all of a sudden the software controller is going to go and the cloud keys are going to be what they are. Unifi's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Calm down. The software controller isn't going to vanish overnight. The cloud keys, again, yes, they're being solidified in what they should be. They're cloud-based systems. That's why they're called cloud keys. It's in the name. It's always was a case of a local controller that you manage from the cloud, not just a local controller. Again, that is the product, and it has been for quite some time. I was testing the version 2 firmware and I spotted it straight away that you couldn't set a cloud key up without the SSO. But other than some really, really far out edge cases, I couldn't actually see a genuine thing you couldn't achieve with it set up and then disconnected from the internet. This is how Ubiquiti are going forward. They are trying to turn from a company that did a little bit of everything into something that's a lot more focused on SOHO, SMB, SME markets, and again, trying to get rid of the crazy edge cases to a certain degree. They're one of the only companies I know that actively lets users test hardware before it's out to market. I mean, could you imagine if Cisco did that to everybody and opened it up to the world? I mean, that would be crazy. They'd never achieve anything because there'd be so many people trying to do everything under the sun with it. And I mean, even that, they get some good feedback and some good testing done, but then they get some really nasty feedback as well of people where, again, they don't read that when you take a step into the early access program, just because you've bought the product doesn't necessarily happen. There are plenty of products that they have made that never make production because they find something wrong or they don't fit or there's a fundamental flaw. I'm testing some at the moment, and again, the product is a good idea, but it's like, what do you do? Do they launch the product and let it fail, or do they pull the product? Because they've done it before where they've launched the product and it's failed, and then they get the wrath of the user base for end-of-lifing a product early. Or do they say, well, we tested it, it didn't work, or it didn't perform as we expected it to do, we're going to take it back, as it were, we're sorry, but you were happy to, you basically, you paid the money, you accepted the risk of a product. What they have found is a lot of people seem to be buying products that were in early access to try and sell to clients, which is against the rules of the EA system. You test it to see if it's a good fit. You don't buy the product on the understanding that you're going to be supplying that product to the clients until it makes it into production. Even we find that. We're in the UK. I have a G4 doorbell from the US here because that's the only way I can test a product before we sell it to our clients. We can't sell it to our clients because it's not been launched over here yet. And again, I got the wrath of the community because I dared to call the product not ready yet, because it was causing problems to the point where I would not be happy to have those problems in our client environments. But because, again, this is some of the problem with a community-driven thing. The vocal minority will always outshout the silent majority in that case. It is the way of it. I'm pretty sure that we will, in the next firmware update for Unifi, be seeing the ability to add sites come back. I don't think that's gone for long. I mean, that's the big bugbear at the moment for people who are just like, I mean, people are using that as an excuse to basically say, oh, I'm going to look somewhere else because how dare they do this? Well, unfortunately, they own the system as such. You're using it. If you don't want to update, don't update. Wait. Say if having a cloud key that can have multiple sites on it is critical to your working system, number one, you've probably spec'd the wrong device. And number two, just standard production. Wait for the system to deal with what's going on. Again, I think it will be back in the next network update. I do not expect them to drop the single sign-on aspect. I think that's here to stay. That's the fact, in my opinion. I don't think you will be able to get one of these without now having a single sign-on account. I can't see that changing, because from Ubiquity's side, it simplifies their entire system. It's all about making things standardized and getting rid of the craziness. That's where Ubiquity is taking the Unifi range. Good luck to them. Again, we as an MSP will be continuing to use the Unifi systems. They are the right fit for a lot of our customers. As I've said, we've used the Gen 1 Cloud Keys, we've used Gen 2s, we've used Gen 2 Pluses, we've used Dream Machine Pros, we use NVRs, we use all the switches, all the APs, and we use what fits the customer. If Unifi doesn't fit the customer, we use something else. We use Meraki, we use Ruckus, we use Netgear, we use Cisco. It doesn't really matter so long as it does what the customer needs it to do. You don't put a Cisco switch in for a home user that can do layer 3 routing and everything else when all they need is a dumb switch. Same reason why you don't put a Unifi switch in when you need Cisco level of kit. It's exactly that. I say I've watched the Unifi system grow for over 10 years. I've got access points that we are now only just pulling off site. That are original Unifi UAP LRs. And they are ancient, but they still work, and they're still literally supported. There's still firmware coming out for 10-year-old APs. I don't know any other manufacturer that's still supporting 10-year-old APs in that level. Yes, mistakes have been made along the way. But again, it's enabled, the actual product enabled so many homes, so many home labs, so many businesses to leverage near enterprise level feature sets for very low budgets. And again, there's people coming up with new and interesting ways to deal with that, and to come up with ideas for them. The product designers are trying to find, again, areas that they can fit a product in. This is why there is such a sometimes quite bizarre ideas coming from them. And again, it's different. The product designers and the firmware people are two different things, and a lot of there's always a lot of ire that, well, how can they launch this product when this doesn't work properly? Well, this is working for, again, vast majority of their users, but no, it might not be working for you. It's the way of it. Again, there's been people whinging that stuff has disappeared from the EA store. Well, exactly that. That's why. It's because they build stuff to deal with a case that they think may have a marketable issue. Not marketable. Oh well, can the product. But 1,000 people bought it. 1,000 people took the risk. Just because they took the risk doesn't mean that it was ever going to be a product that made it to market. This is where people have found this with the Wi-Fi 6 access points, where they've actively changed in EA because they found issues with the chipset. They found a limitation with the chipset that they were designing with. Do they redesign? Do they try and work around it? No. Redesign the product. Don't try and bodge it when you realise something's wrong. They say it's a case of not sitting there and shouting, this doesn't work from the highest peak. Ask how many people it is working for and how many times the system has actually enabled companies to do so much more. Unifi Toaster, anyone? Thank you for watching. It's been a bit of a long rant, and if you are still here, please feel free to like and subscribe. Again, at the moment, everything's a bit of a mess because I'm in the middle of doing all sorts of stuff, so my videos have kind of ground to a halt for a minute. This is going to be a bit of a long rant. I say, this is my opinion based on over 20 years of working as an IT tech, as working in doing what I do. This is what, again, day-to-day work, we are dealing with this. We are working with companies, we are working with environments, all sorts of varied different environments, because that's how we have to set things up. If you're in the UK and are looking for a company, please get in, for IT support, I should say, please get in touch below. Yeah, in the meantime, I've been Jim, and thank you for watching.